We can look back and say what it is and assume there was some joined up thinking when it started, but in fact it was just a very spontaneous gathering of people who were interested in the criminal justice system, mostly young social workers, probation officers in Belfast in the middle 1970s. And I think that there was a kind of indignation amongst young social workers at the time that you had to try and actually do something positive to improve the conditions of young people who are coming through the criminal justice system. We started off, two or three of us talking about it. One of the obvious needs of particularly young people coming through the criminal justice system was support and accommodation. So we thought that a simple, clear project would be to find a hostel for young, so-called young offenders. So I was in the university and I approached the accommodations officer. So in fact, there was a very fine, large house in Mount Charles just below the university in Belfast. And we talked to the probation service. We didn't have any money. And they agreed that they could make it part of a probation order for a young person coming through the courts, that they would be under probation and have residence. And that's how it all began. We didn't have a notion of a large organization. We just thought, start somewhere and show that it works. So then once that was established, we got funding and managed to open another hostel for adult offenders. And then there was a lot of homelessness in Belfast at the time, so we got a big warehouse in the centre of Belfast and turned it into a day centre for homeless people. And then eventually we developed that into a night shelter as well. So the organisation just grew without any kind of grand ideas, and it was very opportunistic. We saw some small activity that would be helpful in some way to the community and started it. And very much the principle was you get stuck in and you do it, and then you try to find funding. And the best way to get funding from a government agency is to do something that's part of their remit that has to be done anyway. And the social services were very generous at that time, that if you could do something, provide a service that they were ultimately responsible for, they were very happy then to delegate that to a voluntary organization. And then eventually we had 2 or 3 projects, and we thought, heavens, we seem to have some kind of an organization here. So we thought we better call ourselves something. So we had long deliberations on Sunday evenings what we call ourselves, and we ended up with the name Extern. And then we employed 1 or 2 people. Up to then it had just been all volunteers. Then eventually we got a professional director and staff and objectives, and it's developed into the extraordinary organization it is now, with about 600 employees and fully professional organization. Such kind of social deprivation particularly in Belfast at the time, where our main area of work was, that almost anything you did could be shown to be useful. I mean, one of the early projects was a car called the Auto Project in West Belfast. So many young people were involved in what's called joyriding, stealing cars, and the community was greatly sort of distressed by this. And so we thought that rather than just taking young people and putting them through training schools and incarceration, if there's a passion for cars there, perhaps set up a project where we had 2 or 3 people who knew how to fix cars. We got an old Greyhound stadium and premises so that we could take young people in where they learned how to mend cars, and then every Friday evening they could take them racing around this old Greyhound track. So we built it up so that the sort of generations of young people actually had the opportunity to become mechanics. And there was also a kind of confidence building, so that instead of being a young offender, you became a young mechanic. And then we always tried very much a principle of people who were what you might call clients becoming actual workers and teachers. So say in something like the car project or in the hostels, we'd always try to guide the people who were originally the clients into becoming part of the staff of the organization. So the young people of the car project learned to be mechanics, and they would train other young people coming in, and they would often be real, martinets and disciplinarians in a way that staff members couldn't be. And the same in the day center with the homeless people. We tried to bring people into kind of the general running of the food making and the general organization of the day center. So there was a flow of people, really changing the identity of people from being, a kind of a problem to being, comfortable and having some kind of good role in society. The voluntary group that became Extern, very much believe that there are people in society who just have been dealt a raw deal, and you just need to open up opportunity. And then let's prove that some other way of tackling it works. And I mean, from the very beginning, when we were looking for money from government agencies and social services, probation, if they were funding us, we had to show that the money was being well spent. So therefore we had to build in very rigid evaluation systems. The outcomes, say, of the car project, the young people who went through the project as compared to a control group were less likely to commit offenses, and their lives were more likely to be turned around. So every project had to have its inbuilt evaluation. We just all the time wanted to show that something was the right application of effort and money and consideration of the needs of the people we're working with, that that we could turn people's lives around. And we thought if we could do it on a small scale, then maybe eventually it might be accepted into the larger organizations. There's a different way of doing things.